individuals move into the fields. And for those of you that are wondering what this might have to do with the explicit relationship, excuse me, between those experiences and human rights, is that education in this country should be a civil right. All students, especially minoritized students, should have dignity cultivating experiences where their full humanity is both honored and they have opportunities to engage in rigorous learning opportunities where their critical consciousness, which is where they push back against the status quo, and they're taught how to do that. They're taught about particular inequities in our society and how to fight against them. They should have opportunities like that, and they should see themselves, most importantly, as capable, brilliant learners, no matter where they are and what they choose to pursue. We know that deficit thinking is very pervasive and palpable in our country, particularly in schooling environments, and that's basically the ways that many of us think that students and their families from minoritized communities are lacking something, they're deficient, or they're in need of repair. That's in stark contrast to assets-based approaches, and I use the S on assets intentionally because we think about all the different ways that those students and their families and their communities show strengths and have intellectual resources on which educators can draw upon and build in their work with students. And so if we think about how all of those things work together, we know that between just access to certain learning environments, deficit narratives, and the ways that white supremacy works in our schools, that racialization processes can occur in those contexts to really form dehumanizing experiences for those students. We also know that anti-Black, anti-Indigenous, and other forms of racism exist in schooling, and that those students experience that sometimes on a daily basis, depending on where they go to school. And I just want to give one example of that. 2 years ago, we saw 3 Black girls, Michaela, India, and Bria, enter a competition sponsored by NASA that was for high school students, and they were to build a NASA technology and think like an entrepreneur to build something that would solve an everyday problem. Finalists entered their technology, and then people voted to determine the winners. These 3 girls designed something that was really important to their communities and to other communities. They basically designed a water purification system. They were thinking about their own communities, but particularly Black and Latinx communities in Flint, Michigan. I personally learned about their success via Twitter and from other folks who use the hashtag Black in STEM and similar hashtags, and then we were urged to vote for this particular group. Within days, they were the only team in the competition with all female students, and they were the only team with all Black students. They quickly became first place in the competition based on votes. And then this happened. Some racist individuals discovered this and were not happy about it. They figured out how to hack into the voting system. They also posted racial insults and slurs and urged members of their communities to spread the campaign and to vote them down. NASA ended up ending the competition, the voting in the competition. And they said, quote, "Unfortunately, it was brought to NASA's attention yesterday that some members of the public use social media not to encourage students, but to attack a particular student team based on their race and encourage others to disrupt the contest and manipulate the vote. The attempt to manipulate the vote occurred shortly after those posts. Thankfully, NASA had the records of the number of votes prior to the hacking, and they were able to tally the votes. In the end, Michaela and her teammates ended up placing second in the competition. But I think this is a wonderful example, and wonderful in the sense that it really displays the ways in which white supremacy operate in our society and the ways in which they impact Black and Brown students from really accessing wholly STEM education spaces. I have a lot more that I can say, but I think I've probably used much of my time, and I'm happy to come back and share more in the Q&A after other panelists have gone.